What really happened at the Tower of Babel? Most people imagine a group of ancient builders stacking bricks into the sky, only to have their languages scrambled by God. But this wasn't just a story about a tower. It was a spiritual rebellion, a political revolution, and the birth of a counterfeit civilization. Let's break it down verse by verse. Genesis chapter 11, verses 1 to 9. The Tower of Babel. Now the whole earth used the same language and the same words. Genesis 11:1. At first glance, this seems like unity, but we'll soon see. This unity was against God, not with him. Come, let's make bricks and fire them thoroughly. Genesis 11, verse 3. In Mesopotamia, natural stone was scarce, so the people innovated. They made kiln-fired bricks, which were stronger than sun-dried mud bricks. This was advanced technology for its time, cutting-edge architecture. But here's the deeper issue. They used man-made bricks instead of stone, what God naturally provides. They used tar instead of mortar, rejecting even the designs of creation. This wasn't just construction, it was civilizational pride. We don't need what God gives. We'll build our own foundation, our own future, our own kingdom. Come, let's build ourselves a city, so Genesis 11:4. Cities were more than buildings. They were symbols of centralized control. Ancient cities had kings, walls, temples, and armies. To build a city was to declare, "This is where our power begins. This is where we rule." After the flood, God commanded humanity to spread out and fill the earth. Genesis 9:1. But instead they said, "Let's stay together. Let's build a system. Let's take control." And if you remember, Cain, the first murderer, was also the first to build a city. Genesis 4:17. Right after being cursed and sent away from God's presence. Babel follows his legacy, not God's. And a tower whose top will reach into heaven, Genesis 11:4. In ancient Mesopotamia, these towers were known as ziggurats, massive pyramid-shaped temples. They weren't for defense or observation. They were religious monuments. Their purpose? To bridge earth and heaven, so man could climb up to the gods. Or worse, become like them. This was a spiritual mutiny. They weren't calling on God. They were trying to replace him. Sound familiar? Isaiah chapter 14, verses 13 to 14 describes Satan's own ambition. "I will ascend to heaven. I will make myself like the Most High." The same spirit filled Babel. We don't need God to come down. We will go up. Let's make a name for ourselves. In the ancient world, your name meant your identity, legacy, and authority. Kings, empires, and even gods were obsessed with immortalizing their names. Here, the people of Babel weren't seeking God's name. They were seeking their own fame. But in the very next chapter, Genesis 12:2, God says to Abraham, "I will make your name great." There's a stark contrast here. Babel tried to seize a name by force. Abraham received a name by faith. "Otherwise, we will be scattered over the face of the whole earth." This was open rebellion. God said, "Fill the earth." They said, "No, we want to stay." It was fear-driven disobedience. They believed that unity, strength, and self-rule were safer than trusting God's plan. But unity without God is just organized rebellion. So why was the Tower of Babel so bad? 1. It rejected God's command. Genesis 9:1. "Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth." Babel says, "Let's not fill the earth, let's stay." 2. It replaced God's provision. God made stone, but they said, "We'll make bricks." God provides natural order, but they chose human systems. 3. It imitated Satan's pride. Isaiah 14:13, "I will ascend." The tower was a literal attempt to reach heaven by human strength. 4. It centralized power in man. They built a city and a ruler, to unify the world under human glory. It was the first global system to exclude God. 5. It prefigured Babylon. The Hebrew word Babel is the same as Babylon. This is where Babylon begins, not just as a place, but as a spirit of rebellion. Babylon later becomes the empire that enslaves Israel, defiles the temple, and exalts its own name above God. Daniel 4:30. God's judgment. Genesis chapter 11, verses 7 to 9. Come, let us go down and confuse their language. God scattered them by striking at their unity of speech. It was mercy and judgment combined. Mercy. He stopped them before they did worse. Judgment. Their system collapsed and they were forced to do what they refused. Fill the earth. And the place was called Babel, meaning confusion. What does this mean for us today? The spirit of Babel still exists. Every time humanity tries to build a kingdom without God, whether it's political, technological, or religious, we are repeating Babel. When we trust in systems instead of the Spirit, when we try to reach heaven through works instead of grace, when we make our own name great instead of bearing God's name, that's Babel. Final contrast: Babel versus Pentecost. At Babel, God confused languages to stop rebellion. At Pentecost, God united languages to spread the gospel. Babel scattered people in judgment. Pentecost gathered them in truth. Babel was man trying to go up. Pentecost was God coming down. Let's build with God, not against him.